Pour tout le monde, bon matin, bienvenue au webinaire du SCFP. Welcome to the CUPE webinar on Bill 17. Je m'appelle Simon Ouellet. L'interprétation est offerte ce matin par Ronald Fournier. Donc, servez-vous du petit globe dans le bas de l'écran. Vous pouvez cliquer sur le globe interprétation pour choisir la langue de votre choix. Interpretation is offered this morning by Ronald Fournier. Click on the little globe below. This is going to be in French and in English. And this webinar will be recorded, of course. This is a pension webinar on Bill 17. For those who were there last night, it's the same pension webinar as last night. Don't worry. If you want to ask more questions, feel free to do so in the chat. You'll see that we have a chat box on the side, and we have Matt Stella and Marie-Gabrielle Gagnon, CUPE staff like me, who are handling the questions. Be gentle with us. Write your questions, and we'll try to answer by written method. You can ask your questions as we go. However, there's some questions that might get answered throughout the presentation. So feel free to ask questions. At the end of the two-part presentation, we will have a formal question period, and then I will ask people to raise their hand and I will unmute them. And of course, I'll ask that everybody is respectful. Donc, sans plus tarder, je vais vous présenter, je vais demander aux panélistes, les gens qui peuvent ouvrir la session, de se présenter et je vais commencer avec la présidente de la section locale 1253, Iris Lloyd.
Good morning. I'm Iris Lloyd, Provincial President of the New Brunswick Council of School District Unions, CUPE 1253.
Merci Iris. Et nous avons aussi nos panélistes, Mark Janson, qui est un expert en pension, ainsi que Cindy Rinne, qui est actuaire, Aditya Rao, avocat en droit de la personne, et aussi présente, nous avons Sandy Harding, la directrice régionale du SCFP au Maritime, ainsi que Steve Drost, qui est caché là dans ma boîte parmi les 140. Je dois le trouver pour allumer sa caméra. Mais en attendant, on peut commencer tout de suite avec les panélistes. Allez-y.
Merci beaucoup, Simon. Alors, bonjour à toutes et tous. Merci beaucoup d'être ici avec nous ce matin. Je me joins à vous du territoire non cédé des peuples algonquins, Anishinaabe, ici à Ottawa. Mais ça se peut que certains d'entre vous me connaissent à cause que je travaille pendant 2 ans au Nouveau-Brunswick. C'est un webinaire de courte durée. Notre objectif est de vous donner l'occasion d'obtenir des réponses à vos questions par rapport à tout ce qui se passe en ce moment avec les régimes de retraite négociés par nous, le syndicat, maintenant ciblés par le gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick, avec leur projet de loi 17. Je vais commencer par un bref rappel des faits. Les conventions collectives des sections locales 1253 et 2745 et du Conseil des syndicats des foyers de soins du Nouveau-Brunswick contiennent toutes des dispositions relatives aux pensions. Ce langage existe dans ces conventions collectives parce que, fondamentalement, il s'agit du processus de négociation collective. Les pensions sont négociées à la table des négociations depuis des décennies. C'est pourquoi ce qui se passe aujourd'hui, avec le gouvernement qui tente de vous forcer à adhérer à un nouveau régime de retraite, est si scandaleux. En fait, les sections locales 1253 et 2745 ils ont déjà signé un protocole d'accord avec le gouvernement concernant spécifiquement leurs pensions. Cela s'est produit lors des négociations pendant la grève de 2021. Le syndicat et le gouvernement ont négocié un processus visant à répondre aux préoccupations des deux parties. Ce que vous devez tous savoir, c'est que le protocole prévoyait une procédure à suivre en cas de désaccord. La solution, acceptée par les deux parties, était de recourir à une procédure d'arbitrage indépendante. Mais au lieu de suivre ça, le gouvernement a choisi de cesser son engagement et d'utiliser son pouvoir législatif pour nous imposer un régime de pension qu'il veut pour nous et non quelque chose que nous avons librement négocié avec lui. C'est pourquoi, fondamentalement, il s'agit de la liberté de négocier collectivement. Le troisième diapo, s'il te plaît. Il faut aussi savoir que le gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick reconnaît que ces régimes de retraite ont été négociés à la base. Bien qu'ils le reconnaissent, ils refusent de négocier. Nous savons ce qu'ils sont en train de faire. Le premier ministre a une obsession idéologique de s'attaquer à nos régimes de retraite. Il a essayé d'attaquer les sections locales 1253 et 2745 en 2021 et il a échoué. Il a été forcé de négocier. Cette fois-ci, il veut également s'attaquer aux membres du Conseil des syndicats des foyers de soins du Nouveau-Brunswick. Et cette fois-ci, il veut imposer son idéologie en utilisant le pouvoir de l'État. Il n'essaie même pas de négocier. Donc, avant de laisser la parole à notre confrère Mark Janson pour qu'il explique les détails des plans de pension, je tiens à être clair. C'est inconstitutionnel. Ce qu'ils font est une violation des droits que vous confère la Charte. Le SCFP est prêt à se battre à chaque étape du processus pour s'assurer que vos droits et la sécurité de votre retraite sont protégés. Je passe la parole à Marc.
Merci, Adi. Bonjour, bon matin à tous. My name is Mark Janson. I'm a CUPE staff pension specialist. I've been working with your locals on pension issues for some time. That's Local 1253, 2745, and the Nursing Home Council. All have similar but slightly different pension issues. I've been working with all of you, all your locals for a period of many years on pension issues. So today we're going to try to walk you through at a very high level the basic debate between CUPE and the New Brunswick government with respect to pensions. I'll say off the top, pensions are enormously complicated, enormously complex. We're not going to have time today to cover every single element of this debate. I'm going to do my best to give you a high-level overview of what the major differences are. I'll say a couple things before we jump in. CUPE, all of your groups have been supported by in different ways through this process by your CUPE staff reps, by CUPE pension specialists. We also have external resources to CUPE, professional advice we've been receiving throughout these issues with respect to the kind of numbers behind pension plans. The people who run the numbers in the pension world are called actuaries. We have our own actuary on retainer on these files, and she's actually joining us this morning. That is Cindy Rinne. She's from a firm called PBI, actuarial consultants from Toronto. So she's well versed in the issues and the debate. We've also had professional pension legal advice throughout the process. Well, so rest assured, your locals have had all kinds of specialist pension support. I'm going to be talking today about where we are now with respect to pensions, what kind of pensions we have now. We'll be talking about the shared risk model that the province prefers, and we'll be talking about another pension plan called CAT. That pension plan is really materially on the table from the 1253 and 2745 processes around the memorandum that Adi mentioned that was signed in the last round of bargaining. That process doesn't necessarily apply for the nursing homes group. They were not a signatory to an MOU like that. They haven't been involved in the discussions around CAT, but they, as Adi mentioned, they are covered by Bill 17 as well, trying to force them into a shared risk plan as well outside of any bargaining process. So I understand anytime we talk about pensions, there are all kinds of questions from members, very understandably, because pensions are so important to all of you. As Simon said off the top, we're going to try to get to as many of those questions as we can today. We're likely not going to have time to get to absolutely all of them. We do have a system. We're going to follow up and answer any questions that we were not able to in our time today. Anyway, that's a bit of a preamble. I'll jump in now on pensions. So you've probably heard what's happening at a very high level. The arguments being put forward by the government and the Premier are that these three defined benefit plans in question, our three pension plans that are affected by Bill 17, the province says they are broken. They are not viable anymore. They are unsustainable, and therefore the province is trying to portray what they're doing as a good faith effort to fix your pension plan for you. And we disagree that is what they are trying to do. The key factor they point to when they try to make this claim that your pension plans are not viable or are broken, they point to the fact that there are what's called an unfunded liability or a deficit in your pension plan. And that is true. There are unfunded liabilities and deficits in these three plans. Now, what we tell members is a deficit in a pension plan does not mean that your pension plan is broken. Canada's pension system is designed to deal with deficits when they arise. The key point that you should know here is your government has deliberately and illegally not followed those rules. The history here is when we go back a decade or more, the New Brunswick government has failed to make its required contributions to the two school board plans and has failed to ensure that the nursing homes pension plan has proper funding as well. So these choices go back a decade. We think they were political choices. In our view, they were illegal, and we responded. CUPE 1253 brought a grievance against the New Brunswick government saying exactly that. We think you have illegally underfunded our pension plan. You have not made your required contributions as government. On the member side, we've always made our required contributions to those school board plans. The 1253 grievance said, we believe the government has illegally underfunded this plan for more than a decade. The government denied that. They said, we'll take you, this has to go to arbitration. We took it to arbitration, hands down won that decision. The arbitrator fully agreed with CUPE. Yes, the New Brunswick government violated the terms of the pension plan, violated the terms of the collective agreement by not making its required contributions, and ordered them to begin making those payments. They delayed making those payments for a long time. They threatened to judicially review the decision. Eventually, they did start to make those payments last year, obviously more than a decade late. Similar story for the history on 2745. They haven't taken that grievance forward yet. It's in abeyance. The nursing home group had slightly different facts, but a very similar outcome. We made a legal complaint to the provincial superintendent of pensions, the sort of regulator of pensions in the province, and got a decision back earlier this year that said, yes, that plan has also been, illegally underfunded for some time, and ordered that proper contributions begin to be made. So when we look at these plans, we see, of course, we acknowledge they are in deficiencies. A deficiency in a plan doesn't mean the plan is broken. When we look at what the benefit levels are under these plans, they're extremely modest benefits. Your average payment, annual payment under these plans is between $8,000 and $12,000 per year. So when we look at that, that's an extremely modest pension payment. Our view is the problem isn't with the level of the benefits. The problem is not with the fact that the benefits are a secure, defined benefit promise. The problem is the illegal political decision of your government to allow these plans to be underfunded for more than a decade. Maybe I'll just turn to Cindy now just to weigh in on this issue. And Cindy, again, is our consulting actuary on the file, been supporting our locals. Just to kind of give us a comment, is what we've seen in these three plans normal based on what you know about pension plans in the rest of the country.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I have to concur with you. The plans are not broken. That's not a word to be used with these plans. These plans are underfunded, as Mark said. They just haven't been funded properly by government. And this is not uncommon with many other pension plans across Canada, especially in light of what happened in 2008. It's the nature of pension plans. The markets are volatile, things go up and down, deficits occur, surpluses occur. But the plan sponsor, being the government in this situation, is required to put the funding in that's necessary when deficits arise, and that hasn't happened. They seem to be able to do their own thing and not follow the provincial funding rules, and every province has very strict funding rules that are adhered to. And I have to say, when I first came on this case and had a look at these plans, I've never seen this before, where the plan sponsor doesn't have to commit to its funding that it's required to do. So this is very unique. So this is a worry, and the fact that they can just override with legislation is also a real worry. This is just not the way other provinces work. So I think what's broken here is the commitment to fund these plans properly by the government.
Yeah, totally agree. And these arguments that the plans are not viable, that they are no longer sustainable, this is a very standard employer pension bargaining tactic to frame the debate in that way. They begin by claiming, we're not trying to go after your pension. We are actually trying to save your pension. Again, we disagree that that's what they're doing here, but be clear, this is a very standard employer pension bargaining tactic to devalue what we have now and to present them pushing their agenda as somehow an effort that is about your interests as opposed to theirs. So let's just spend a minute explaining what type of pension plans we have now. So these three pension plans, Local 1253, 2745, and the nursing home. So our school board and nursing homes groups are in three different defined benefit pension plans. And let's explain what that term means. Defined benefit, DB. It's right there in the name. The benefit that you receive in retirement is defined. It is not a benefit that the plan hopes to deliver to you. It is a benefit that the plan makes the plan and the plan sponsor make a legal commitment to deliver to you. So a DB pension is a legal promise to pay you a set amount of pension at and through your retirement. That pension is the promise is often based on a formula that references, in all of your plans today. The formula has a component based on your length of service and your earnings. You plug your data in, that gives you your individual specific pension entitlement in retirement. They differ across these three plans, so we won't get into all those details today. That's basically how they work. There's some rules around when you can retire. There's indexation provisions so that your plans increase while you're retired. So why do workers like DB plans, and why do retirees like DB plans? This is the type of pension plan that unions have preferred and fought hard to secure and defend. We like these types of plans because they give you security in retirement, and that's a point in your life when you need a whole lot of security. When you're retired, it's often at a point in life when you can't simply go back to work and earn more money. You are essentially, fully dependent on the income that you have managed to set aside through, savings and your workplace pension plans throughout your career. So it's a time of life when you need a whole lot of security, and a DB plan gives you that security. You have a whole lot of value in the fact that your pension's never going to go down in retirement. If the stock market happens to go down while you're retired, you are still going to receive the promised pension amount. You're not going to unexpectedly have your pension reduced in retirement. That kind of security is very important to workers. It's particularly important to workers when your pensions are so modest. As I said earlier, your pensions are based largely on your wages and your length of time working. So we all know you should be earning more for the important work that you all do. In an ideal world, you would be earning more. We know your wages are too modest, which means your pensions are too modest. As I said earlier, the average annual pension under these three plans is between $8,000 and $12,000 a year. At that level of income, you simply can't bear the risk that those amounts could be unexpectedly reduced when you're retired. Next slide, please. So that's what we have now, a DB pension plan. New Brunswick government has a different plan for you. What it wants to impose on all these groups through Bill 17 is what's called a shared risk pension plan. Now, this is a model of pension that was developed in the province more than a decade ago, and we're quite familiar with it. So shared risk pension plans work quite differently from a defined benefit pension plan. In a shared risk plan, on first blush, it might look kind of similar. It has a pension formula that's, again, based on your service and your earnings. But crucially, these plans are not defined benefit plans. There is a target. That's that formula. It's a target. It's not a guarantee like it is in a defined benefit plan. So it's a much different approach. It's completely, I would say, legally different than a DB plan. It does not make a pension promise to you. What would happen in a shared risk pension plan if the plan experienced some financial difficulties at some point in your working or retired career, and there was not enough money in the plan? The answer in a shared risk plan is to reduce the benefits that are promised to members. That's possibly for active members. It's even possibly applied to retired members as well. So there is no pension promise in a shared risk plan. It sets a target. It is permissible, it's allowed for that plan to not deliver on the target, even in retirement. So from CUPE's point of view, it's not the same kind of real legal retirement security that a DB plan provides, where benefits can't be reduced. In a shared risk plan, they can be reduced. Now, the very controversial part of the shared risk model, these types of pension plans have existed in Canada for quite some time in the construction industry and things like that. But the key difference of the New Brunswick model is the fact that it allows the pension you have, the DB pension you have already earned for years of service, you have already done. You've all worked for, the deal was you go to work and you will get wages and a guaranteed pension. It was always told to you, you are earning a defined benefit. This is what you will receive in retirement. That has been the deal. You went to work, you traded your labor for that deal, for wages and a guaranteed pension. Some of you for many years, even retired members, this all would apply to. If these plans are converted under the shared risk model, they would be all of those pension promises would be retroactively converted into shared risk benefits that then could be subject to legal pension reductions even in retirement. So in our view, what this does is kind of strips away the promised element of your pension. You have been told it was guaranteed. It would now no longer be guaranteed. That is deal breaking on a retroactive basis, because of course you can't go and get your labor back. You gave your labor already for this deal. For them to go back and take that pension promise away from you retroactively is obviously breaking a long-standing promise they've made to you. So this could affect retirees. It would affect all of the pension for active members. it would affect the guaranteed aspect of the pension you have already earned. Now, to be fair to the government, the shared risk model is based on sort of a trade-off. They say, yes, we're going to take away the legal guarantee. Your pension could be cut. The model does mandate that there is actuarial testing done on these plans, which they say, yes, even though it's not a guarantee, the testing shows that it's very, very likely to be delivered. CUPE's view is we don't view actuarial testing to be an acceptable substitute for a legal pension guarantee. So that's one of the reasons we're, I think, so alarmed about where the New Brunswick government wants to go with this shared risk model. Many other plans in the province have been converted to this model. They legislated a conversion on the public service pension plan in the province basically exactly a decade ago. And CUPE's been fighting that in court as well. So very complicated. I'm sure we'll have questions about this, but let's move on in the slides here. So that's where your government wants to take you. CUPE 1253 and 2745 have a different vision of a way forward. These are the two locals who did sign MOAs, Memorandum of Agreement, in the last round of bargaining to end the 2021 strike. There were, these are the agreements Addy referred to earlier, pension deals signed with the government. What those deals said was we're going to sit down and have a negotiation process around pensions. If that negotiation process fails, the dispute would be sent to a sort of an arbitration process that would be conducted not by labor arbitrators, but by pension actuaries to kind of make a determination of where the pension plan would go. So the New Brunswick government in that process has been advancing a conversion to the shared risk plan. CUPE 1253 and 2745 had a different vision of a way forward. They proposed what is called the CAT pension plan. Now, this is a national pension plan. It originates from the college sector in Ontario. It is open to any employers across the country. It's the public sector or private sector. It's the fastest growing plan in Canada. It's the strongest performing plan in Canada. CUPE's brought a number of groups into this plan across the country. You might have heard news like the Unifor in the auto sector with the big three automakers just last month. You know, they were essentially in a labor dispute with those major employers, and the key issue was around pensions, and the employer, the deal eventually did see them moving into CAT. So we see employers all around the country moving into this model. Unions have been largely supportive of it as well. So why have 1253 and 2745 put CAT on the table as a better destination than the shared risk model? First and foremost, CAT is a defined benefit plan. It offers real retirement security in and through your retirement. Unlike the shared risk plan, there is a legal guarantee of your benefits under CAT plan. They cannot be reduced, unlike shared risk, as we just talked about. So that's sort of the main key issue that the locals were focused on. Again, when these pensions are so low, that actual legal real pension security matters a great deal. So that was a major factor. There were projections done about what the benefits would be under CAT versus shared risk model. Those projections showed, yes, it's expected that not only would the benefits be more secure, but the benefit levels would actually be higher for members. So CAT is a complicated plan. How it works is there is a defined benefit base benefit that is a guaranteed amount that will never be reduced. On top of that, there are two levels of sort of non-guaranteed benefits. So while you're working, there's a non-guaranteed possible benefit that would see your base benefit increase. And while you're retired, there are non-guaranteed indexation improvements like a wage increase for your pension. So those two elements are non-guaranteed, but when they're delivered, they become part of the guaranteed base that cannot be reduced. And CAD is quite confident they're going to be able to deliver on all of those benefits, all of those non-guaranteed benefits going forward. So when we put this package together from the member point of view, more secure benefits, projected to be higher levels of benefits. That's a clear win for plan members. But we genuinely don't think this is just a win for pension plan members. We actually think there's some actual real wins on the government side here. In terms of cost, we actually think, looking over the long term, we're quite competitive, if not less expensive than them on government cost. With respect to risk, we think we are a less risky proposal for government than their own proposal. In the shared risk model, there's a slight risk their contribution will increase slightly. That risk doesn't exist for government in CAD. It's a fully fixed contribution rate. And our proposal would actually allow them to take the pensions off of the government books, whereas their shared risk proposal does not. So genuinely, we think this is a win-win for both sides of the table. More secure, higher levels of benefits for members, and some real financial benefits for government as well. And we were quite disappointed that the government didn't see this, and we didn't get a resolution through the negotiation process. In September, we wrote letters to the government saying, pretty clear to us, these negotiations are at an impasse. We need to move to the agreed upon arbitration process under the MOAs. The government response was effectively, we're taking our ball and going home. We're going to just legislate our preferred outcome on you. Maybe I'll just go to Cindy with respect to what I've said about shared risk plans versus CAT. See if you have any other comments.
Well, I'm really just going to echo what you've said, Mark, because you've done a really good job of explaining it all. The one thing I did want to emphasize about the shared risk plan is that the term shared risk is a misnomer in itself. That plan is not shared risk. That plan has the risk lying squarely with the members. So unlike the current plan, your current plans right now, where as Mark said, benefits are guaranteed, member contributions are fixed. The lever there to handle deficits is on the additional funding required by the government, so which obviously hasn't happened. So the funding risk with the current plans now, the funding risk is entirely with the government. But under the shared risk, the risk is being shifted to members, because in this shared risk plan, the lever there to deal with deficits, should they arise, is the benefit lever. And that's where, the benefits would be reduced in order to handle any problems that might arise. So, and that means that benefit risk is fully on the members, because you suffer the consequences should benefits be reduced. And it does apply to retirees. It applies to everybody. So, that's tough when you're a retiree and, should your benefits, be reduced in future, even a little bit, you don't have the opportunities to find income from other places. So that's, not ideal at all from a member perspective. But I do want to just focus a bit on CAD as well, because as Mark said, they have a guaranteed basic level of benefit there, the way that they operate. And then to the extent that additional monies become available through gains, through surpluses, whatever, all of that money goes to topping up the benefits for members. All of it. They refer to themselves as a plan for members. That's the way it operates. They're currently 124% funded, which means they have a 24% surplus sitting in that plan. They have to have been doing something right. This plan's been in existence since 1967, I think. The last 10 years, they've averaged almost 10% investment return. They have a sophisticated investment department that gets the returns. All of that goes to providing higher benefits for members. So I encourage you to, check out their website. They've got all kinds of accolades and awards for their plans, the way it's been designed, the communications, everything that they do. They just have a really good model there. And while the base benefits there are guaranteed, and the way it's designed, as Mark said, there are conditional benefits, which are the top-up benefits. And you can even see in their website their history of granting those conditional benefits. They have granted pre and post-retirement indexing or inflation protection to these benefits year in and year out. So you can see that. I just, again, want to emphasize the strength of CAT. There are, 300 employers, 15 industries, 19 union and member associations, 85,000 members across Canada. So they are a plan registered in Ontario, but they are plans across Canada. 20 billion in assets, and many plans are looking to join CAT as we speak. It really ticks all the boxes in terms of benefit adequacy for members, benefit security, affordability for even the government, as Mark said, as well as contribution stability. So it's not a surprise that so many plans have joined CAT for good reason.
Yeah, and I mean, just to tack on to that last point, CAT's, as I said, the fastest growing plan in the country. We see a lot of employers, particularly big private sector employers, running to join this plan, and unions being supportive of that. And frankly, we just haven't seen that same thing with this New Brunswick shared risk model. And I think that is significant and means something, and is kind of a validation of our approach here, that it's not just CUPE that's seeing this, it's a lot of other unions as well. We can move to the next slide here. So on shared risk versus CAT, just to summarize quickly, SRP is the government's proposal, shared risk, that's the middle column. CAT is the 1253 and 2745 proposal. So in terms of benefits that can't be reduced, does the shared risk plan offer that feature? No, it does not. Does CAT? Yes, it does. The base benefits you've earned in CAT are guaranteed. The non-guaranteed benefits in CAT that have been awarded become part of that guarantee as well. Shared risk does not make a guarantee on anything. When we looked at member projections, which we shared with the New Brunswick government, they did not dispute this. Which plans projected to deliver more benefits? It was CAT. So more secure benefits, higher levels of benefits. A fixed cost for government? No, the shared risk plan does not do that. The Premier is talking about his concern about taxpayers and risk. We think our proposal actually delivers more security, financial security for government than their own. And in terms of how the pensions are on the government books, your pension plans are on the government's books. They're part of the government's liabilities. They form part of the debt of the New Brunswick government. Their proposal would not get those plans off the books. Our proposal would. There's accounting reasons for that. We won't get into those in great detail, but these are kind of the very high level pieces of why we think shared risk is better than CAT. Other way around, why we prefer the CAT pension plan to the shared risk model, why we put it forward at the table, and why we're disappointed the government didn't see this as the win-win we believe it to be. So just before I turn it back, I did say we were asked about this claim the government's making that the conversion is going to cost, that our CAT proposal is going to cost them $1 billion. We don't know where they're getting that figure from. They are throwing that out all over the place. It's not a figure they've ever explained in any detail. Our conversations with our advisors on this is we don't know where that figure is coming from. We do know we didn't make a proposal that cost anywhere close to $1 billion for taxpayers. The only way we think they could get remotely close to that level, and this doesn't even fully get us there in our view, would be if they took the assets that are in your plans today. So that's what's in your pension fund today. That's based on your contributions, your employer contributions, the investment returns that have accrued to those over the years. That's more than $500 million in those funds now. That's money that is yours. It's being held in trust for plan members. We think they're actually considering that as part of the cost. This is speculation. It's the only way we think they can get close to $1 billion. Again, they haven't explained this in any detail, but that is, in our view, absurd to claim if that's indeed what they're doing. That money that is already in the bank, that is your money, is somehow a cost to the taxpayers if that's transferred over to CAP. So I'll turn back to Adi now. Thank you.
Merci, merci beaucoup, Marc. Merci, Cindy. C'est une très bonne explication de ce qui se passe, du problème auquel on fait face. Fondamentalement, c'est une question du droit à la libre négociation. C'est sûr que vous allez avoir des questions. On va les prendre à la fin. S'il vous plaît, écrivez vos questions dans le chat. On va juste, à cause du temps, on va passer à la dernière diapo. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on demande ici? Premièrement, le retrait du projet de loi 17. Deuxièmement, revenons à la table de négociation. C'est ça la raison d'être des relations de travail. Les sections locales 1253 et 2745 ont déjà une proposition. Le Conseil des syndicats des foyers de soins du Nouveau-Brunswick ne veut rien que leur droit à la libre négociation. Alors, notre message pour Monsieur le Premier ministre Higgs est clair. Il doit prendre nos propositions au sérieux et au lieu de bafouer illégalement nos droits de la personne. Nos droits qui sont garantis par la Charte. Retirez immédiatement le projet de loi 17. Merci pour votre attention et je passe la parole à Simon.
Merci beaucoup, Aditya. Thanks, Mark and Cindy, for those explanations. Merci beaucoup. Je vais maintenant demander aux gens de lever la main pour poser des questions. I invite people to raise your hands to ask questions to the panelists. And I will, so you can use the raised hand function. Vous pouvez utiliser la fonction de lever la main. Je vois une question de Gail Thompson. What is the amount that the government has underfunded and owes to the plan?
Yeah, so it differs by these three plans. It's a good question. The amount has kind of grown over the years. It's kind of like running a balance on your credit card. There's interest charged on the unfunded liability if no payments are being made. So that the deficit in the plans has grown over the years. The last valuations that were done as of the start of 2021. And, forgive me if I get these slightly wrong. This is off the top of my head. I think the 1253 plan was $110 million in a deficit. The 2745 plan, I think, was $52 million in deficit. Now, that obviously is a lot of money. It sounds like a whole lot of money, but we should also remember that there's a whole bunch of assets in those plans. Yeah, there's a deficit, but those plans are, I'd have to check the numbers, but somewhere between 60 and 80% funded. So there's actually, it's not like the plans are totally broke. We would say that's the amount owing. That's what the arbitration decision said, is that the government's obligated to pay those deficits down. Those numbers could change based when the next valuation is to be done. But that's what we know as of the last date. And then the nursing homes plan is a slightly different story, but basically a similar result. There's a longstanding deficit in that plan. Proper contributions weren't made, and there is now, thanks to CUPE's action, a decision to actually start making those proper contributions and bringing those plans back to balance. When we look around the country, as Cindy said, these are the only plans we've seen that are like this, that just said, we're just not going to pay our deficits. We're not going to pay our obligations. It wasn't a great financial decision by the New Brunswick government to do that. They are paying a bunch. There will be a bunch of interest owing on those deficit amounts since, and they missed out on a very solid period of investment returns. You can't make investment returns if the money's not in the plan, and they missed out on all of that. every other pension plan in the country did what they were supposed to and are now back, by and large in significant surpluses.
Thank you, Mark. I have a question from Darcy. Darcy, I've unmuted you. Darcy Barker. Go ahead, Darcy. Speak now, or I will skip you. Oh, Darcy, you're too slow. So I'm going to take questions from the chat box. So this is maybe more of a political question. There's folks asking about, government doesn't want to negotiate. What do we do? I see we have Stephen Dross is present. Steve, you're on the phone line. You're now unmuted. Go ahead, Steve. Oh, go ahead, Steve. You're unmuted.
Hi, how you doing? Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen, there's lots we can you hear me, Simo?
Yes, sir.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Clearly, there's lots that we can do, and we're doing. Working around the clock, the leaders that are affected, the 3 locals, but also other leaders and great staff. Today, we have major information sessions going on at many of the liquor stores across New Brunswick. Members need to be getting out there and informing the public and informing the rest of the members of what's really at stake here. And in fact, we have a government that, is breaking laws. It's making laws to break laws. And we got to really bring the heat on this government. Another thing that needs to be done right away is that we need to create a blizzard. It's nice and sunny out today, but if you look at we have some Facebook profiles and backgrounds that are white. I would say that every CUPE member should be changing their profile, and it either says that, conservatives break contracts or in Higgs no trust, and don't just leave it at the members. Get your family, get your friends, get everybody. But that Facebook, when you open that up, that should just be a bright white, because that's the color of these messages or whatever. The other thing that needs to be done, like yesterday, it's a very simple ask. If people want to go on to my site, Steve Drost on Facebook, you'll see I did a 15-second clip asking my MLA to vote no on Bill 17. Now, if your MLA is not a PC, you can still do a 15-minute clip or 15-second clip and just call out Arlene Dunn for not protecting workers and asking Arlene Dunn to vote no on this. So there's many, many actions that we need to be doing. There's also some activity that's going on Monday, but the members need to take a hold of this. Leaders have been working around the clock. We're doing our part. We want to support the workers on this, but everybody needs to get on board. We've got 11,000 members just in those 3 locals. Well, there should be 11,000 profile pictures plus their friends and family. And, one thing I can tell you, Higgs hates Facebook because it's the one little thing that he cannot control right now in New Brunswick. So the most important thing I can give you in terms of advice, make sure you're speaking to your executive and you know what the plans are moving forward. We're making plans every day. We've been working around the clock. And please remember, with plans, sometimes we have to pivot because of something that the government has changed or done or whatever. So my best advice, get active, get involved, get the message out there. These conservatives are breaking the law.
Merci, Steve. Je vois beaucoup de bonnes questions. Est-ce que ça affecte les employés déjà retirés? Oui, ça va affecter les employés retirés. Est-ce qu'il y a de l'argent qui nous est dû, qui ne sera pas payé? Effectivement, la partie 7 de la nouvelle loi fait en sorte que le gouvernement efface toutes ses dettes envers les employés, même ce que les arbitres ont exigé qu'ils soient payés, comme dans le cas de 1253. Donc ça, c'est assez gênant que le gouvernement ne rembourse pas ses dettes envers les employés. Ça, c'est de l'argent qui vous est dû. Mais avec cette loi spéciale-là, il l'efface. Je vois d'autres questions sur des griefs. Why did 2745 did not put a grievance in like 1253 did? I think that's a question maybe for Mark.
Yep, it's a good question. The grievance, very similar facts for 2745. They both filed grievances. 1253, managed to get its grievance heard before the strike, and 2745 had not. But the grievance still exists. What happened was after the MOAs were signed in the strike, I think there was an understanding that pension issues were going to be, and the issues in the grievance around underfunding were going to kind of be addressed by that MOA process that, the government had proposed and CUPE had agreed to in good faith. And the grievance was therefore put into abeyance, which is kind of just like a legal term for putting it on pause. So it still exists, it's still on the books, but it was just being held while that MOA process was playing out, while your unions were engaging in that process in good faith, spending all kinds of time, money, and resources, as was the government. And then once we said, we want to bring our very good win-win proposal ahead to arbitration, and government responded by saying that arbitration is not going to happen because we're going to force you in to our preferred outcome under Bill 17. It's obviously very difficult for us to hear that after having engaged in that process in good faith at great expense for so long.
Je vois que Daniel a sa main levée, Yves et Étienne. Je vais commencer avec Daniel. Daniel, je vais demander que vous enlevez votre mute. Allez-y.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Me, I'm wondering is why do we take all that time to take action? How come that we don't like go out as right now? As you see, the government is always going to go around. We've been seeing this for the last few years. We've been seeing even the government of Canada doing the same thing. Why do we always wait and give them time to do their work against them? If you don't give them time, then the action will come faster. Same thing as the teachers in Quebec. When they walked out illegally and they got what they wanted. But by giving the government all the time that they need to go around the union or the members, they always succeed 99% of the time to do what your agenda wants. That's the question that I'm asking.
Merci, Daniel. Je pense que c'est peut-être une question pour Steve. I think that might be a question for Steve.
Yeah, it's a good question. Can you hear me, Simon?
Yes, sir.
Yes. No, that is an excellent question. And I was actually up in Montreal a couple of weeks ago. I know what's going on in Quebec. They're working alongside of the Common Front. They've been working on this for 14 months. Although they just all walked out illegally, they actually have been planning, organizing, building member strength, building capacity. So when they did hit the streets, it was unilateral, everybody walked or whatever. We found out about this 2 weeks ago. So we've been scrambling. We've got great staff, great leaders, great activists, but we got to be doing anything and everything to make sure that we have that membership power, and we will, take whatever necessary action that we have to, but we have to do that based on what our leaders are telling us and what our members are telling us and what they're capable of doing.
Merci, Steve. La prochaine question, c'est de Yves Dignard. Yves, vous pouvez y aller. On vous entend, Yves. Allez-y. Yves, je vous entends pas. Est-ce que vous pouvez parler? Vous êtes enlevé sur mute. Ah oui, quelqu'un qui commence son camion, ça fait que je vais passer à autre chose. Étienne Hébert, vous pouvez y aller.
Oui, bonjour. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
J'aimerais remercier tout le monde. C'est Étienne Hébert, président du local 1154. Ça fait que récemment, nous avons reçu une lettre de Ryan Donaghy, Souvenir de l'éducation, nous disant que d'éventuelles mesures de pression illégale et nous menaçant de mesures disciplinaires pour aller jusqu'au congédiement. C'est sûr que selon la politique AD 2913 sur le travail sain là, du gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick, il s'agit ici plutôt comme du harcèlement. Est-ce que vous envisagez de faire un grief au point de vue du gouvernement, étant donné qu'il viole lui-même sa propre législation, en fait? C'est tout.
Excellente question. Je vais demander à la directrice régionale, Sandy Harding, de vous répondre là-dessus. Et je peux vous dire qu'une lettre a déjà été rédigée. Sandy?
Yes, so not only did the parents get a letter in the education system of which we responded to, because many parents reached out to us and gave their support and felt the letter was bullying, pitting the union members against parents. They then went a further step, and it wasn't only in education. In all of our departments, a similar letter came out, worded very similarly that, and it was threatening and harassing. So a letter was responded. You can look on you should have gotten it. We're trying to get it out to all employees from your union leadership. And basically what you're saying, that, they're saying they want harassment-free and bullying-free workplaces when they're in fact doing that. So we've sent a letter to all employees to be clear that we feel that is bullying behavior on behalf of the employers. So I suggest you take a look at that letter. We're also following up with a letter, a legal letter to the employers, basically saying, knock it off. You are creating the toxic workplace. You are creating, these situations that become volatile. This isn't the workers that are going to work providing the services every day. This is, in fact, the government through their departments creating these volatile situations. So I suggest you take a look at that. There is a response. We are looking at a legal response as well, a response to the employer. I will post the letter again on my website as well, because I think it's well written and it's to the point, and it's addressed to every CUPE member, that you have rights. You absolutely know what your responsibilities are, but you have rights as a union member and an employee as well.
Merci, Sandy. Je vais maintenant passer une question de Lynn Fairweather. Lynn, I see you have your hand up. I'll ask you to unmute.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I have a question in regards to the pension plans. Shared risk. If that, pray to God that doesn't come into effect, but is there a penalty to retire before the age of 65? I'm not quite sure if you know what I mean, but I know with the...
Yep,
okay.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. There is. I mean, they haven't said which shared risk plan we'd be going into. I believe all of the shared risk plans say there is a penalty of 5% per year before 65. Now, again, there's a lot of details that are yet to be known. CAT has a similar age 65 rule and a 3% per year penalty earlier than 65 currently. My best guess would be that the years of service you have earned already, that the retirement age would be protected for those years of service. But again, I can't say that with certainty based on what's in Bill 17, but I imagine that's how it would work. So that sort of new rule would really, I imagine, only apply on a go-forward basis for the years of service you have yet to work. But again, I can't say that absolutely certainly because Bill 17 really lays out a process for moving in. I expect that's how it would work. Cindy, do you have any comments on that piece?
Yeah, I think we only kind of know what would happen with going forward and accruing future service. We don't have enough information on what would happen going into the shared risk with past service, I don't think.
Thank you. Je vois qu'il y a 2 questions qu'il reste. Sorry, Lynn, I cut you off there. Did you have an extra?
Oh.
All right.
Oh,
You're good?
just a second. Sorry. No, I guess not. I just know myself. I'm a nursing home worker and I've been employed for 26 years. I just turned 50 and I know my body will not work until I'm 65. I know that right now. So I'm praying that this does not go through.
Yeah, and just on that, Lynn, just to be clear, like again, I believe the case would be for everything you've earned to date, your existing early retirement rules would apply, which are your nursing homes. I think there's a rule of 85 in your plan. Going forward for the years you have yet to earn, I think the shared risk rules, if that's where, if Bill 17 is successful, those rules would eventually apply on that portion of your pension. Does that make sense? There would be kind of 2 portions. That's usually how it's done. I suspect that's how it would happen, either under a CAT or Bill 17 proposal. I hope that's clear. I understand it's a bit complicated, this kind of past service and future service piece. But I don't think the intention is to just have one foul swoop. The rule changes overnight for all of your pension, and it's 65 on everything. I'm just trying to be fair to both sides here.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Merci beaucoup. I see Eve and Gail have been patiently waiting. It's already 11:03, but we're going to take a few extra questions because we're on a roll. Yves Dignard, je vais vous demander de prendre la parole. Allez-y. Monsieur Dignard, Yves? Dépêchez-vous, sinon je passe à la prochaine question. Bon, je vais vous demander d'écrire votre question dans le chat, Monsieur Dignard, parce que je vous entends pas. On vous entend pas par ici, là. I'm going to go for a question from Gail Thompson. Gail, if you can find the unmute button. Oh, go ahead, Gail. You're now unmuted. Well, I can't hear you, but I see a few good questions in the chat here. My MLA said the message to the superintendent says Higgs did not stream our money and my union agrees. Steal our money and my union agrees.
Yeah,
well,
I can jump in on this, Simone, if you'd like. I did hear the finance minister made this same point in the legislature the other day, and his line was essentially, it's been said we stole money from these pension funds, and that's not true. And like, we agree, they did not remove money from these pension funds. That was never an allegation the unions have made. What the unions have been saying for some time is that the collective agreements and the pension plans themselves required that the government make proper contributions to these plans, and the government failed to fully make its required contributions. So no money was put in, but the government did not fully no money was taken out of these funds by the government. But what the government did was they didn't live up to the deals to put the proper amount of money into the pension plan. So they're, trying to kind of sow doubt on our claims there. I guess we've never claimed they've taken money out. What we've said is they didn't put the legally required amount of money in for quite a long time. And that's what we were successful at arbitration.
Yeah, and you have to go one step further. What did they do with the money that was supposed to go in these plans? They used it for other things. So, yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. They diverted the money that should have went in these plans. They were legally obligated to pay in these plans, and they shifted it somewhere else. So.
Il y a une question excellente. Beaucoup de questions ici dans la boîte sur 2745. Donc, il y a des gens qui n'ont pas des pensions, vraiment, ils n'ont pas des grosses pensions là, à 2745. Est-ce que pour les assistantes en éducation, par exemple, qui n'ont pas de pension, qu'est-ce qui va se passer? Qu'est-ce qui aurait pu se passer aussi? Et une autre question pour 2745. Si Is there a percentage if you retire before 60 or 65? And does the amount of service you have mean anything?
Yeah, both good questions. So there are some 2,500 plus 2745 members who are not in the 2745 DB plan, and they're not in because of issues around eligibility. Basically, they're not full-time members, and the plan is really only for full-time members. So these part-time members are in what's called a defined contribution pension plan. It's optional. There are optional levels of contributions. This is not really a pension plan. It's more of a savings plan. It doesn't make any kind of pension promise to you. So that's a lot of members in an inferior pension plan for a long time at a very low level of contributions. Both parties, now I'm speaking about the MOA process, both parties committed to bringing all of those members into whatever the new plan is, whether it was CUPE's version or the New Brunswick government's version, they would all be properly brought in. Now, there's an important difference here that I think is, again, part of our win-win here. The New Brunswick proposal on shared risk treats every member the same in the shared risk plan. So every member would be in shared risk, contributing at a shared risk amount. It's a one-size-fits-all solution. And the contribution amounts vary between the existing shared risk plans, but they're generally around like 9% of payroll for members. So these, that's a lot of members, 2,500 plus members who would be going from contributing now possibly nothing or 2-3%, something like that, all the way up to 9 overnight. That's a significant reduction in your take-home pay because your contributions are deducted from your pay. CUPE's view was, that's not the grade. That's a big jump for these members overnight. We don't know if they can all afford that immediately, and we think a bit more flexibility would be good for these part-time workers, which is yet another feature of CAT that is open, that is not open in shared risk. CAT does allow different treatments for different groups of workers. So what 2745 had proposed for those part-time members was, yep, they're going to join CAT just like everyone else, but they're going to be at a different contribution rate. They would have a choice between 5 and 9%, an individual choice, and the employer would match that amount. So any member who wanted to be in at the full rate could do that. But any member who felt, I can't quite get there overnight, I want to work my way there, or I can't just do it right now, could choose to be at a lower amount. And again, we thought that's better for members. We also thought that's better for government. It's a lower cost for government, sort of by definition, with this optional feature. So this is another part of the win-win we've been talking about here. We genuinely think for these members, this path forward is much better, and it's actually better for government too.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mark. We've stretched the webinar by 10 minutes. I want to thank everybody. There's still a lot of questions in the box, good questions. We can't answer them all. There's going to be another webinar tonight at 5. However, at 11, throughout the province, there's an action happening. You should probably close this chat, this webinar, as soon as you can and drive up to your liquor store near you. If you don't know where to go, check with one of your executives. There's info pickets being done. You should help your brothers and sisters in leafleting residents so they understand the impacts of this bill. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. If they can do this to us, if they can strip collective bargaining rights from one group, what stops them from stripping rights to another group, what stops them from breaking contracts with communities, First Nations, businesses. The list goes on and on. So, je vous remercie. Je vais remercier tous les panélistes. Je remercie les membres qui ont été patients, qui ont attendu pour au moins 1 heure. Je vous invite à aller rejoindre les lignes de piquettes d'information. Je remercie aussi les techniciens, Cindy, Mark, Aditya, Sandy, Steve et tout le personnel en arrière-plan. Merci beaucoup. Je vous rappelle qu'il y a une session à 5 heures. Invitez un maximum de gens, même si vous avez été, invitez vos amis, vos collègues. C'est ouvert à tous les membres, mais les gens du public peuvent aussi se connecter. Il n'y a pas de limite vraiment. Donc, si vous avez des membres de la famille qui sont inquiets, invitez-les aussi. Ils peuvent écouter qu'est-ce qui se passe sur la question des pensions. Donc, je vais donner le mot de la fin à Sandy. Sandy, do you have any closing words before we close the webinar?
Me? Did you say Sandy?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you had any closing words just before we shut
Oh,
down the whole
Cindy
thing.
and Sandy sounds the same. No, just thanks for everybody taking the time. We understand you have lots of questions, and we have lots of questions, which is why we need to put the brakes on this bill. They need to sit and talk to us. You need to put the pressure on your MLA. We know you're upset. We know you don't want this to happen. You need to clearly talk to your MLAs. You need to talk to your friends and do whatever you can to get them to vote no on Bill 17 on Tuesday. So I'm going to head out now to a couple of liquor stores and pass things out. I hope if you're in the St. John, Quispam, or Hampton area, I'm going to try and make all 3. I'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.
Merci beaucoup.
See you, tous.